am so excited. My next guest has a column on the American Thinker. It's a great website. And he kind of hits everything I've been thinking of over the course of the last few months in a very succinct and easy to understand way. It is called The Left 2021. The Left is Serious Now, and it's by William Gensert. Thank you so much for joining me, William.
Thank you.
So, William, walk us through this. You say that 2020 was really the year where the left took the masks off and they don't care anymore whether or not we're on board with them. They have a plan to take over.
Yes, well, we so disappointed them and did not put them in power forever that they feel they shouldn't have to try to convince us of anything. They should just seize power, and they're using emergencies to do so, such as COVID, the riots, and you'll see what comes up next will be climate change.
Yeah, so I do want to get to that because you make a really good point about climate change, but talk a little bit about how, because I think you mentioned this and a lot of people are afraid to say it, and I hate using this term because it's a term the left uses a lot, but how did they weaponize this pandemic to their favor? They did not let the crisis go to waste. Can you explain that to people?
Yes, Rahm Emanuel said never let a crisis go to waste, but waiting around for a crisis is so 2009. When you can create a crisis and use it to your own advantage, it's much better. COVID was perfect for them. The only thing is it didn't kill enough people quickly enough. It killed primarily older people with comorbidities and younger people who were already sick. So they started with the pandemic porn, trying to convince everybody that no matter what death there was in the hospital, it was a COVID death. And this was to increase the fear. I mean, we're a country where the average age of a person who succumbed to COVID was 80 years old. The life expectancy in America is 78. Is that something we're really supposed to be afraid of?
Right. And I really like this part of your column. You say, yet there is only so much our erstwhile kings can do to impoverish their subjects before they begin, and you're talking about the subjects now, before they begin to realize the danger is not quite as dangerous as was claimed, and these kings do not have their people's best interests at heart. When the sky does not fall, subjects tend to notice that the sky is not falling. Then you get rebellion. Do you see this at all? Are people starting to push back on all of these diktats?
I think they're losing control of the lockdown for sure. People are tired of that. You cannot put people out of business, cannot tell them they can't earn a living. In America, when you could take all the risks you wanted even just a few years ago. And it's the only time in the history of humanity where they quarantine the healthy instead of the sick. And they're basically putting people out of business. And it's not going to be long before people say, you cannot take away my right to pay my mortgage, my right to support my family, my right to a job.
No, I totally agree. Everyone's essential when it comes to, making money. Everyone feels their job is essential when they're trying to provide for their families. So let's move to climate change here. You think that's the next big thing with the Democrats. Once COVID kind of fades out, they're going to move on, and Joe Biden is going to take on, the rising sea levels. Can you tell people what you expect?
I expect, if you looked at the news in the last couple of days, that Nancy Pelosi just loosened the rules on budgetary restraints on any kind of legislation for climate change and COVID. And that's primarily for climate change. She's setting it up so that he can declare an emergency and perhaps seize the same powers that governors did all across the country. Lock down the country. Tell somebody you can't own a car. And if you own a car, you can't drive a car. Cut the supply of fuel so that home fuel oil is out of range, and gasoline is $15 a gallon. Tell people they can't have air conditioning. Tell people that the electricity will necessarily have to go up 5-6 times what it is now.
I totally agree. And then you also talk a little bit here about how this is an ideology that is so strict and ironclad that if you don't follow it, there's no room for you. You will be canceled. And you also, the line I really liked is that you said, we're all canceled. Everyone who voted for Trump is canceled. Do you really feel like that? Do you feel like there's no unity anymore? There's no goodwill between Democrats and Republicans?
I don't think there's been goodwill between Democrats and Republicans for a long time. I think a lot of this started, Republicans used to think, the Democrats, maybe they're just misinformed or uninformed. But since 2008, when Obama was elected, they think everybody on the right is evil. And if you're evil, what's the point in even trying to make a deal with someone or trying to work with them? When you are on the side of what is all that is right and just, it doesn't matter what you do because you're already on the side of what is good.
Right. And there was a Republican who said that once. I think it was Charles Krauthammer, but I might be wrong. He said, Republicans think Democrats are wrong. Democrats think Republicans are evil. And I do agree with you. There is this sense that there's nothing we can do. If they disagree with you, you are morally bankrupt and they don't need to try to treat you with any sort of respect or dignity. They can just kind of rule over you.
And they want to rule the world, and we are in the way. So why pay any attention to us at all? They're willing to sacrifice us to get power and wealth. And they all get wealthy while they gain power. They may pretend it doesn't happen. They're always worried about the poor people and the people who don't have opportunity in their life. But every policy they have hurts poor people and hurts people who don't have opportunity. They will always be against anybody who, and plus, anybody who supported Trump is out of range for being someone they would care about anyway.
Oh, yeah, they're already making lists of everyone who worked for Trump so they can blackball them for the rest of their lives. And we're not allowed to say blackball anymore. We have to use a different word for that. But that's essentially what they want to do. But there's another thing you said in your column. You said, make no mistake, everything that Democrats do has a make me rich component. You were just talking about that a little bit. How is the climate change going to make them rich?
Oh, look what happened with Al Gore. He lost the election in 2000, and he went and invested in climate offsets. He made close to $50 million on that, which I owns 10 houses. He couldn't do that as a senator on a senator's salary, but you see quite a few of the senators that we have and congressmen we have are all multimillionaires. They invest in, they know what the policy is going to be ahead of time, and they invest in that ahead of time, and then the government finances that policy, and they reap the rewards.
And you know what, William, that makes me think, because someone brought this up to me earlier today, the COVID, and I'm not downplaying the people died, and you say that in your column, you know, it's you want people to live as long as they can, and nobody wishes that on anyone, and no one's trying to say that it's not a big deal. But one thing someone did mention to me today was this COVID is seeming like, now that they're talking about new strains and, you know, the tracing, it seems like a new cottage industry for them to get rich with, or to at least, you know, have jobs and employ people into this forever COVID tracking, tracing. You know, it's going to become its own thing now. It's going to be it's going to be like climate change. It's going to be a way for them to run another part of the government.
It's the two forever emergencies. COVID will never end. It'll keep changing, and the governors will keep making rules to lock down people they think probably won't vote for them, and to reward the people that they think will vote for them, and to take control. That's it. It's control and money. When Bill Parcells once said, when someone says it's not about the money, it's always about the money. And that's it with the Democrats. It's about the money.
I totally agree, William. What do you think is going to happen in Georgia? What's your gut telling you?
My gut is telling me that they should be able to win hands down, but you never know. Can they actually get enough votes where they can outpace what is obviously going to be voter fraud? We'll see.
Right, you do talk a lot about the cheating in this current column, which I'm going to tweet out. But you do say that, you know, were they able? You said cheat as much as they can, as close to the time when it becomes too late for anyone to do anything about it. And that really did make me think of the toothpaste in the tube. Like once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's very hard to get it back in. And once you open the door to all of this mail-in voting, it's hard to kind of tell people they can't do that anymore.
And not only that, but, you know, it used to be voter fraud was thought of as bad, but they don't even care that we see it. You know, they didn't even try to hide it. I mean, it'd be one thing if they tried to trick you because then there's some guilt involved there. But since they don't really care about anybody else but the left, they didn't even try to hide it. Blatantly out there. They just keep telling you you're not seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree. William Gensert, thank you so much for joining us. I tweeted out William's column. It's on The American Thinker, and he's on Twitter at William L. Gensert. So that's Gensert. Make sure you check him out there. He's really good. This is a great piece. Everyone should read it. It really summarizes probably a lot of people's frustrations in a very cohesive way. Guys, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Georgia runoffs. Might take a few calls, 844-500-4242. But I have a few other stories I want to hit about coronavirus and a few actually feel-good stories. So when we get back, we will cover all of that. This is the Grace Curley Show.